Everyone thought he died in a school fire, or at least, that's what should have happened. Instead, he woke up inside his own painting. For 31 years, he lived peacefully in that hidden world, creating anything he drew and never worrying about monsters or survival. But the moment someone discovered his portrait, that quiet life came to an end, because outside the painting, the world had changed into a place ruled by monsters, hunters, and secrets that even the strongest couldn't understand. The story begins with a school consumed by flames as Geo runs through the burning building. Instead of trying to escape, he heads straight to the art room. If he is going to die anyway, he wants to spend his final moments in the place he loves most, surrounded by his paintings. As the fire closes in, one of the paintings suddenly begins to glow. Geo believes that is where his life ends. But when he opens his eyes again, he finds himself standing in a peaceful garden. After spending a week exploring his surroundings, he realizes he is inside the very painting he created. His first concern is whether the other children managed to escape the fire. While exploring, he encounters a rabbit that looks like it came straight out of a fantasy world. As more time passes, he notices that time inside the painting constantly fluctuates, making it impossible to know how long he has actually been there. He also discovers countless strange creatures that are friendly and seem to follow him wherever he goes. Before long, he begins uncovering the rules of this mysterious world. The first rule is that anything he draws inside the painting becomes real. Salt, cooking utensils, flowers, trees, and other everyday items can all be created with a simple drawing. Because of that, he never has to worry about food or basic supplies. However, there is one important limitation. Drawing people does not create living humans. It only produces warm, lifeless bodies. Realizing his power cannot create life, he feels more relieved than disappointed. The second rule revolves around a picture frame hanging from a tree. Through that frame, he can observe the outside world and even leave the painting whenever he wants. The first time he steps outside, he learns a shocking truth. 31 years have passed since the day of the fire. The world has completely changed. Monsters now exist, and humans have awakened supernatural abilities to fight them. Those awakened individuals are known as hunters. After seeing what the outside world has become, Gio decides he has no confidence in surviving there and returns to the safety of the painting. As he continues exploring, he discovers the third rule. Although he originally painted only a 2-story cabin and a forest, the world inside the painting has developed its own ecosystem. Plants and living creatures exist that he never drew himself. Even more surprisingly, every creature treats him with kindness, making him wonder if they recognize him as the creator of their world. While gathering fruits, another discovery appears. A transparent status notification suddenly pops up in front of him. Similar windows are said to appear before awakened individuals after the Great Catastrophe, meaning he has also gained a supernatural ability. Caught off guard, he jokes that it would be nice if the notifications gave him a little warning before appearing. Even with this new power, life inside the painting feels less like surviving another world and more like playing a relaxing gathering and crafting game. He decides to experiment with the fruits and herbs he collects, hoping they might be useful for making medicine someday. After filling his basket, he returns to his cabin and decides to make fried honey sweet potatoes for lunch. Compared to his exhausting life as an art teacher, where every lesson demanded hours of preparation, this peaceful routine of gathering, cooking, eating, and sleeping is everything he ever wanted. Just then, a sound comes from the picture frame hanging on the tree. That is when he discovers the fifth and final rule. By turning himself into part of the painting, he can safely observe the outside world through the frame without being noticed. Curious about whoever has appeared outside, Gio quietly looks through the frame before finally stepping out of the painting. The painting is titled Portrait of Gio. Outside the painting, Gio searches the area after hearing a strange noise. After looking around for a while, he concludes it was probably just a wild animal passing by and returns to the safety of his painting. Life inside the painting is exactly how he likes it. Every day, he gathers ingredients, cooks his own meals, and enjoys the peaceful sanctuary he created. As he relaxes on the sofa inside his cabin, he thinks he would not mind spending the rest of his life there. Meanwhile, in the outside world, a group of hunters discovers the abandoned school. One of them notices a painting that somehow survived the fire without a single scratch. The group immediately finds it suspicious. A hunter with the appraisal skill checks the painting and identifies its title as Portrait of Geo. His companions assume it must be a valuable item. Since it was found inside an abandoned school deep in the mountains of Gangwon province and remained perfectly intact despite the fire, they conclude it most likely drifted into earth from a dungeon. Without wasting any time, they take the painting with them to sell it. Completely unaware of everything happening outside, Geo continues enjoying his peaceful life inside the painting. Sometime later, the painting is put up for auction. The auctioneer explains that the entrance connected to the painting changes locations on its own, making it an extremely unusual artifact. That alone attracts countless wealthy collectors, and after an intense bidding war, the painting is sold for a massive price. The winning bidder is an S-rank hunter named Bisabil, the guildmaster of one of South Korea's top 3 guilds, the Collectors Guild. His unique appraisal skill has made him one of the world's greatest experts when it comes to identifying rare artifacts. After purchasing it, he places the painting inside a heavily protected vault surrounded by magical barriers before hanging it among his prized collection. Earlier that day, one of his employees questioned the purchase, reminding him how much money had been spent on a single portrait. Bisabil simply replies that a collector's job is to collect. Since he is spending his own money, he sees no problem with buying whatever interests him. The employee points out that even the Hunter Association president had been interested in obtaining the painting. 31 years earlier, the Great Catastrophe caused dimensions to collide with Earth. Dungeons appeared across the world, monsters poured out, and humanity stood on the brink of extinction. During that crisis, the divine beings who created the system granted humanity the power to awaken and fight back. The current Hunter Association president, Dan Hera, became one of the symbols of that new era. Despite having little interest in collecting artifacts, even she wanted this mysterious painting. Hearing that surprises Bisabil's employee even more. Bisabil calmly explains that neither his employee's appraisal skill nor even his own can identify the painting's true nature. His employee can hardly believe it. Bisabil became an S-rank hunter using nothing but his appraisal skill and now leads one of the strongest guilds in South Korea. If even someone like him cannot understand this artifact, then its existence could change everything they know. Instead of worrying, Bisabil becomes even more fascinated. The fact that even his appraisal skill cannot analyze the painting only makes him want it even more. As he stares at the portrait, he admires its incredible craftsmanship. Whether it was created by a human or something else entirely, the figure inside looks so lifelike that it feels as though a real person has been trapped within the canvas. At that exact moment, Geo looks back at him from inside the painting. The instant their eyes meet, Bisabil's vision is swallowed by an endless darkness filled with countless colors, resembling the vast cosmos itself. Then, as Geo closes his eyes, everything immediately returns to normal. Instead of being frightened, Bisabil breaks into a smile. Now he is completely convinced. There is no way this is an ordinary painting. Inside the painting, however, Geo is the one who starts panicking after realizing the man outside may have seen him. Inside the painting, Geo realizes that even his peaceful life is no longer safe. The scenery beyond the entrance has been changing recently, but he never imagined someone would actually start talking to him. Outside the painting, Bisabil gently knocks on the frame. "Teacher, can you hear me? Would you be interested in having a conversation?" Geo immediately refuses the idea. Looking through the frame, he realizes the painting has been placed inside an incredibly luxurious gallery. Judging by the carefully arranged interior, the owner treasures this place. That only makes the situation worse. The painting is his only way to the outside world. If every trip outside means trespassing into someone else's property, things could get very complicated. He even imagines being treated like a haunted painting and burned along with it. Seeing no response, Bisabil simply smiles. He apologizes if he came on too strongly, then says he will visit again tomorrow before quietly leaving. Hearing that, Geo can only panic. He is actually coming back. The next day, Geo returns to his usual routine. After drying the flowers and fruits he gathered earlier, he decides to make tea for dessert. Then he realizes he does not have a tea set, so he draws one. Just like every other object he has created, the drawing instantly becomes real. He brews the tea according to the system's instructions, and another notification appears. The tea supposedly improves blood clotting and strengthens immunity. Unfortunately, Gio has no way to confirm it. Ever since entering the painting, his body no longer has normal physical needs. He can move and sleep, but he never feels hot or cold. He never sweats, never gets hungry in the usual sense, and does not even need to use the bathroom. In a way, becoming part of the painting has freed him from every annoying chore. The only thing disturbing his peaceful life is the man outside. 11 days have passed since Bizabil started visiting the painting every single day. Gio reminds himself that he is not lonely. He is simply an introvert who enjoys his quiet, potato-like life. The entrance has never warned him that Bizabil is dangerous, and he appreciates how politely the hunter speaks to him. Outside the painting, however, Bizabil is becoming increasingly desperate. He tells the silent portrait that only blinking inside the frame makes conversations incredibly difficult. Then, he presents an offering, a bound man with a bag covering his head. Bizabil calmly explains that offerings are usually either sinful people or flawless individuals. Since humans are easy to find these days, he asks if the teacher has any preferences. Inside the painting, Gio is completely overwhelmed. Responding even once feels like the beginning of a disaster. Bizabil even wonders if the language is the problem. He reveals that he has already tried speaking 27 different languages, yet the portrait never responds. From conversations he overhears, Gio also learns that Bizabil is the chairman of one of South Korea's top 3 guilds. Even after asking one last time whether the teacher has any interest in speaking with him, Bizabil receives no answer. With a sigh, he promises to return another day before leaving once again. Watching him go, Gio admits that he does not sense any ill intent from the guildmaster. The man genuinely does not seem like a bad person. Still, the constant visits are exhausting. Gio convinces himself that Bizabil will eventually lose interest. Once that happens, he can figure out a way to reclaim the painting, his only entrance to the outside world. He has no idea what would happen if the portrait were ever destroyed, and he has no intention of finding out. Later that night, at exactly 4 in the morning, a female employee enters the collection room to perform her routine inspection. She confirms that the humidity, temperature, and security conditions are all normal before checking the portrait one last time. Then she freezes. The man inside the painting is gone. Confused, she looks around the room. For a brief moment, she senses someone behind her. When she turns around, no one is there. Then, a voice suddenly speaks from directly behind her. "Hello, would you like to talk with me?" Startled, she spins around to find Gio standing behind her in a cloak, casually holding out a cookie. The shock is so great that she drops the clipboard and pen from her hands. At the Collectors Guild headquarters, the gallery is a restricted area that only Guildmaster Bizabil, around 300 licensed hunter curators, and approved guests are allowed to enter. As Yu Sung-woo, an A-rank hunter and curator of the Collectors Guild, heads toward the elevator, he quietly mutters to himself that there is a ghost inside the collection room. Before the elevator arrives, another employee calls out to him while carrying a cup of coffee. The employee explains that the basement gallery on the 5th floor has already received 17 reports of ghost sightings this month. Yu Sung-woo is surprised by the number of complaints. The employee explains that since Bizabil collects anything considered art, he does not care if an exhibit turns out to be a monster. Because of that, ghost-related incidents are nothing new. The Human Resources Department has managed to keep the rumors from spreading since the incidents have been minor, but they cannot guarantee that will continue. Realizing the situation is becoming serious, Yu Sung-woo asks what he is expected to do. The employee praises him for always being reliable and even jokes that he should become the administrative manager instead. Sung-woo quickly refuses. He explains that he used to lead the Hunter Association's research team, and leaving that position already attracted more attention than he wanted. He has no interest in standing out again. The employee drops the joke and hands him a file containing every witness report related to the mysterious ghost. He also mentions that starting next week, the guild plans to provide additional safety training for all employees. As Sung-woo reads through the reports, one detail immediately catches his attention. Every witness describes the ghost as handsome. The reports are also remarkably consistent. According to the records, the ghost never tries to hide its existence despite being displayed inside the gallery. More importantly, not a single person has been harmed. That alone makes no sense. Every monster that has appeared since the Great Catastrophe has shown hostility toward humans. Every creature that emerged from a dungeon attacked people without exception. If a harmless monster like this truly existed, it would already be locked away inside the Hunter Association as a research subject instead of sitting inside a gallery. Curious, Sung-woo asks what the ghost actually does. The employee explains that whenever someone first encounters him, he politely asks if they would like to have a conversation, behaving exactly like an ordinary person. After introducing himself as Geo, he asks for the employee's name and simply makes casual conversation. He never pries into personal matters, and if someone refuses to answer a question, he never pressures them. When the conversation ends, he always leaves behind a small gift. The employee points to another report. It is food. Sung-woo stares at the document in disbelief. The employee explains that the guild immediately tested the food using prisoners as test subjects. The results were completely unexpected. The food was not poisonous. Instead, every meal functioned as medicine. Depending on who received it, it perfectly treated conditions such as anemia, digestive problems, pain, infections, or diarrhea. No one understands how ordinary-looking food can produce such precise medicinal effects. The more Sung-woo hears, the more dangerous the portrait seems. It can understand a person's physical condition, create items with effects tailored specifically to that individual, and somehow remained hidden despite the guild's strict security. He asks what rank the monster has been assigned. The employee admits they still cannot determine that. The biggest problem is that it continues to show nothing but goodwill toward humans. Sung-woo sighs. In some ways, that makes it even harder to deal with. He recalls an incident from 11 years earlier when several countries sent delegations to communicate with a peaceful civilization discovered inside a dungeon. Although that civilization believed it was helping, every delegate returned with permanently altered bodies because the monsters considered human anatomy defective and fixed them. That incident proved that even goodwill from dungeon creatures could become a disaster. No matter how friendly they appear, monsters are still monsters. This ghost is going to be an incredibly difficult case. Sung-woo tells the employee he will handle the investigation since dealing with unusual monsters is his specialty. As Sung-woo prepares to leave, the employee remembers one final detail. The ghost sightings only began after Guildmaster Bisabeo placed the portrait of Geo inside the 5th floor gallery. The elevator doors close. Sung-woo lets out a long sigh. What started as extra work has officially turned into guaranteed overtime. A notification appears before him. Curator Yu Sung-woo has begun exploring the portrait of Geo. Day 1 of the investigation begins as Yu Sung-woo waits inside the collection room until 4:29 a.m., the exact time the mysterious ghost is expected to appear. Right on schedule, Geo steps out of the painting. Sung-woo quietly observes him from a distance. A black cloak, black hair, bare feet, around 188 centimeters tall. His appearance perfectly matches every witness report. He immediately begins analyzing the situation. Geo only appears before dawn when very few employees are around. Either he dislikes being watched, or there are specific conditions that determine when he can leave the painting. Since he behaves like a humanoid, Sung-woo believes the latter is more likely. Considering the ghost's appearance schedule has never been consistent, he considers himself lucky to witness it so quickly. For now, he decides to do nothing but observe. He activates a skill that amplifies environmental sounds to its maximum. Everyone claimed the ghost moved in complete silence. They were wrong. Sung-woo hears an incredibly faint sound, like blades of grass brushing against one another. It is far too quiet for someone with such a tall frame, explaining why no one had noticed it before. As Geo wanders through the gallery, he carefully examines the artwork on display. The artifacts in this room are extremely dangerous, yet he never touches a single one. He simply observes them with genuine interest. Sung-woo wonders whether Geo is merely appreciating the artwork or searching for something useful. Then their eyes meet. The instant Sung-woo looks into Geo's eyes, his entire body freezes. They are impossibly dark, yet somehow filled with endless light. Deep within that darkness, he senses an overwhelming presence that instinctively fills him with awe. Before he can react, Gio suddenly retreats into the painting. Watching the portrait become still once again, Sung-woo wonders if he accidentally frightened him. The first day of the investigation comes to an end. Inside the painting, Gio is just as confused. He remembers spotting Sung-woo hiding behind a display of vases. That makes him wonder if the hunter was actually afraid of him. Every employee he has met so far immediately ran away after seeing him. From Gio's perspective, it probably looked like he was the one who fled first this time. Looking through the frame again, he notices Sung-woo has already left. Gio decides he needs to work harder to appear harmless. He does not want simple misunderstandings to make the situation even worse. Still, he has a feeling that the man in the black coat will return. A rabbit soon approaches him, but just like every other creature in the painting, it runs away the moment he tries to pet it. Gio cannot help feeling a little disappointed. He wishes he had a pet that would actually let him cuddle it. Then an idea comes to mind. Maybe he should paint one himself. The second day of the investigation arrives. Sung-woo stands in front of the portrait of Gio once again. Seeing that Gio has appeared after all, he feels relieved. He had worried the ghost would hide completely after yesterday's encounter. Now the real investigation can begin. Sung-woo concludes that the portrait is unlike any ordinary dungeon monster. His goal is to uncover the rules governing its behavior and determine whether it can peacefully coexist with humanity. Even so, simply looking into Gio's eyes drains his courage. He remembers that some monsters appearing after the Great Catastrophe could only be understood by learning their stories. Humanity had survived those encounters through careful observation rather than brute force. As Sung-woo quietly gathers his thoughts, Gio speaks first. "Would you like to talk with me?" Without hesitation, Sung-woo answers, "Yes, I would." Inside the painting, Joe checks Sung-woo's safety rating and sees 5 stars. Relieved, he realizes the man before him is someone he can trust, and he is genuinely moved that someone has finally accepted his invitation to talk. Inside the portrait, Gio is surprised that even after their unexpected first meeting, the man in the black coat shows no fear while talking to a living painting. Outside the portrait, Sung-woo apologizes for what happened the previous day. Gio is touched by the gesture. In a world where people fight monsters the size of buildings, he assumes a talking portrait must not seem all that unusual. Gio tells him there is no need to apologize and asks for his name. Sung-woo hesitates. He knows that names can hold great power. Many supernatural contracts are formed by exchanging true names, and he briefly considers the possibility that revealing his name could bind him to something. However, based on everything he has learned so far, the portrait has never shown any hostility. In the end, he introduces himself. "My name is Sung-woo." Gio repeats his name before asking if he has any questions. Sung-woo has plenty. His first question is whether the one who made eye contact with him yesterday was really Gio. Gio answers without hesitation. "Yes." Sung-woo immediately asks if that means he can leave the portrait. Again, Gio answers honestly. "Yes, I can." Sung-woo cannot hide his surprise. He never expected the portrait to reveal so much information so willingly. Gio simply explains that there was no reason to hide it. When Sung-woo asks why, Gio gives an unexpected answer. "Because you asked." Sung-woo wonders what would have happened if his intentions had been malicious. Gio calmly tells him that would not have mattered because he can tell that Sung-woo is a kind and polite person. That is the only reason he chose to speak with him. Hearing that, Sung-woo realizes the portrait is capable of judging a person's character. He cannot help wondering how Gio would treat someone he considered evil. Gio then asks if he has any other questions. Sung-woo brings up the mysterious ghost that has been wandering around the gallery and leaving gifts for employees. For the first time, Gio pauses before answering. Instead, he asks what Sung-woo means by ghost. Realizing he may have offended him, Sung-woo immediately apologizes. Gio smiles and explains that a moving portrait could certainly be mistaken for a ghost, but he has never actually died. That answer only leaves Sung-woo with even more questions. He then asks why Gio has been wandering around the gallery. Gio explains that after suddenly becoming part of the portrait and being moved to an unfamiliar place, he simply wanted to know where he was. The rare artwork displayed throughout the gallery caught his attention, but more than that, he became curious about the people working there. He wanted to know what kind of lives they lived, what their names were, and what they liked. Even in a world that had changed so drastically, living alone made him want someone to talk to. Then he quietly adds that polite people like Sungwoo are especially easy to talk to. Sungwoo smiles and asks if that means he prefers polite people. Gio nods and admits that the employees made much better conversation partners than the loud man in red. Sungwoo quickly realizes he is talking about Guildmaster Bizabael. Gio explains that the Guildmaster talks so much it is difficult to respond. Sungwoo is speechless. Now he finally understands why Bizabael failed to learn anything from the portrait. Gio had simply decided he was too overwhelming to talk to. Trying to smooth things over, Sungwoo apologizes on the Guildmaster's behalf and admits that his superior can be a little eccentric. Gio replies that Bizabael never seemed like a bad person, so he does not mind. To Sungwoo, that answer is surprisingly reassuring. Even after seeing through an S-rank hunter, Gio remains completely calm. As long as someone is not evil, he does not seem to hold their flaws against them. Sungwoo asks one final question. Most of the time, the portrait's eyes remain closed. Can Gio still see the outside world during those moments? Gio explains that he is not constantly observing people. When his eyes are closed, he simply watches the changing scenery through the frame, almost like looking out the window of a moving bus. He previously confirmed with a mirror that the portrait only opens its eyes when he actively chooses to communicate with the outside world. He adds that, since he is trapped inside a frame, watching the world outside is one of the few forms of entertainment available to him. That answer sends a chill down Sungwoo's spine. To Gio, the real picture is not the portrait. It is the humans living outside it. Gio then explains that he is only trying to behave with proper etiquette because that is what a decent person should do. Sungwoo smiles. It was a pleasant conversation. With that, the second day of investigating the portrait of Gio comes to an end. At 9 o'clock that morning, Yu Sungwoo rushes into Bizabael's office. Guildmaster, that portrait is dangerous. Bizabael looks up at him. What do you mean? Yu Sungwoo reports his findings to Guildmaster Bizabael. He explains that the portrait is completely different from every monster humanity has encountered so far. Instead of blindly showing goodwill, Gio genuinely believes he is human. Whether that belief is real or merely an act is still impossible to determine. That uncertainty is exactly what makes him dangerous. Gio judges people based on his own sense of good and evil. Sungwoo cannot imagine what would happen if the portrait ever decided someone was evil. If that day came, the consequences could be catastrophic. He asks whether the portrait should be handed over to the Hunter Association for research. Before Bizabael even answers, Sungwoo already knows the response. The Guildmaster has no intention of giving it up. Instead, Bizabael becomes even more interested. The more he hears about Gio, the more he believes the portrait is a gentle existence. He tells Sungwoo to continue talking with him, build trust, and eventually introduce them properly. He also asks him to find out what Gio likes, so he will not be ignored again. Although Sungwoo realizes it is a very personal request, he agrees since it is part of his job. Bizabael laughs, wondering why all of his employees are so cynical. Sungwoo replies that it is because the Guildmaster only recruits people like them. In reality, every employee in the Collectors Guild was personally selected and recruited by Bizabael. He never hired people casually, and even capable hunters felt pressured simply by standing in his presence. That alone spoke volumes about how powerful he really was. Before leaving, Sungwoo reminds him that there is no similar case to compare with the portrait of Gio, so understanding its true nature will take time. Bizabael simply tells him to continue the investigation. As Sungwoo leaves the office, he cannot help thinking that the Guildmaster might accidentally bring about the end of the world one day. The third day of the investigation begins. Sungwoo starts with a simple question. Do you ever get lonely? Gio immediately answers that he does not. Sungwoo apologizes if the question is too personal. Since only gallery staff ever enter this room, he assumed Gio began leaving the portrait because he wanted company. Gio quietly shakes his head. He actually prefers places without people. Sungwoo then asks whether talking like this makes him uncomfortable. Gio says it does not, but explains that he spent so much of his previous life talking to people that he always wished for a place where he would not have to speak so much, worry so much, or be tied down by so many responsibilities. The world inside the painting fulfills that wish perfectly. Surprised, Sungwoo asks if he used to be human. Jio calmly corrects him. He is still human. Realizing his mistake, Sungwoo rephrases the question and asks whether Jio was an ordinary human before becoming trapped inside the painting. Jio answers yes. That revelation gives Sungwoo a new perspective. From what humanity knows, humanoid monsters generally fall into two categories. Some are born as monsters and later evolve into human forms. Others begin as humans before becoming something else entirely. Jio appears to belong to the second group. Even more unusual, he still retains his memories without being consumed by hatred or resentment like similar beings usually are. Instead, he seems completely at peace. Yet there is something unsettling about that peace. It reminds Sungwoo of a funeral. Trying to change the subject, he asks whether Jio ever gets bored. Jio admits that he does sometimes. When Sungwoo asks how he deals with it, Jio gives an unexpected answer. He eats. Sungwoo freezes. A painting. Eats. Jio casually explains that he gathers ingredients, prepares them, cooks them with his own utensils, and enjoys the finished meal just like anyone else. After all, he considers himself an ordinary human. To Sungwoo, the explanation somehow makes him sound even less human. While thinking about it, Jio remembers the rules of the painting. Anything he draws inside becomes real. He can interact with the outside world through the frame. The forest is a separate ecosystem filled with friendly life. Since Sungwoo seems curious about how his abilities work, Jio decides to try a small experiment. He tells Sungwoo that there are things he can enjoy specifically because he lives inside the painting. Curious, Sungwoo asks what he means. Jio makes a simple request. Please draw an apple on the portrait. Sungwoo is caught off guard. On the portrait itself. Jio nods. Since Sungwoo always carries various supplies for unexpected situations inside the gallery, he takes out a paintbrush. Even so, he hesitates. Altering a masterpiece is the last thing he wants to do. Jio notices the art supplies and asks if he always carries them. Sungwoo explains that working in this gallery means being prepared for anything. Finally, he paints an apple onto the portrait. Jio looks at it and honestly comments that it is not a very pretty apple. An awkward silence follows. Then, to Sungwoo's complete shock, Jio reaches into the painting, grabs the apple that had just been drawn, thanks him, and casually begins eating it. Sungwoo can only stare in disbelief. He had just watched the portrait eat an apple that he drew himself. Jio happily finishes the apple and admits that in his entire life, he has never tasted anything like it. From inside the painting, he praises its flavor, saying it is perfectly ripe and full of aroma. Yu Sungwoo stares at the paintbrush in his hand, unable to comprehend what he just witnessed. The apple was nothing more than a rough sketch made with ordinary paint, yet it somehow became a real fruit. Jio explains that living inside the painting allows him to do many things. Whenever he feels too lazy to cook, he simply draws a finished meal and eats it. To Sungwoo, that is yet another ability no ordinary human should possess. Jio notices his curiosity and asks if he finds all of this fascinating. When Sungwoo nods, Jio decides it is only fair to return the favor for drawing the apple. Thinking he is about to receive some ordinary gift, Sungwoo waits quietly. Inside the painting, Jio remembers one of his earliest experiments. After arriving in this world, he spent countless hours drawing precious gemstones to test the limits of his abilities. He even ground those gems into pigments and used them as paint, discovering that both the paint and the artwork seemed to come alive with every brushstroke. That experience made him wonder if something created inside the painting could be given to someone outside of it. To test that theory, he paints directly onto his own portrait. Colorful paint suddenly spreads across the image of his face before a system notification appears. A new quest has been completed. Moments later, a glowing crimson jewel slowly emerges from the golden frame of the painting. Sungwoo instinctively catches it. Jio smiles and tells him it is his payment for drawing the apple. Completely stunned, Sungwoo examines the jewel. Its crystal structure is unlike anything he has ever seen. He asks what kind of gemstone it is. Geo honestly admits he has no idea. He only knows it came from somewhere incredibly deep underground, close enough to the planet's core that it still carries intense heat. He jokingly adds that perhaps it is so warm because it resembles one of his friends. Feeling the heat radiating from the jewel, Sungwoo reaches an important conclusion. Geo is not a monster. The third day of the investigation officially comes to an end. Later, Sungwoo reports his findings to Guildmaster Bisabale. Based on everything he has witnessed, he explains that Geo cannot be classified as either a dungeon monster or one of the children of the Origin. According to the knowledge possessed by the gardeners, the Origin is a transcendental existence that governs the balance of the universe and establishes the laws of existence itself. The dungeons that appeared after the Great Catastrophe were born from its power, and every monster ultimately originated from those dimensions. The children of the Origin are different from dungeon monsters because they are born directly from the Origin itself. Yet Geo belongs to neither category. He is something entirely unprecedented. More importantly, he has demonstrated the ability to create completely new life. Several days later, on the 6th day of the investigation, Sungwoo returns to the gallery. Geo happily introduces his newest creations. Tiny, glowing blue birds fly around him as he proudly calls them his family. Curious, Sungwoo asks if he really created all of them himself. Geo nods and explains that he painted around 100 of them simply because he thought it would be fun. Although they have no vocal cords, they are surprisingly talkative. Sometimes they gather together and form what looks like a beautiful blue pond. They also enjoy decorating themselves by storing various objects inside their soft, jelly-like bodies. Listening to the explanation, Sungwoo realizes Geo is speaking about them exactly as someone would describe living companions. He cannot help asking whether those birds possess souls. Geo quietly admits that he has wondered the same thing. That answer only deepens Sungwoo's confusion. The children of the Origin possess neither ego nor true consciousness. Yet Geo is different. He is simultaneously a human, a painting, and an existence capable of altering reality itself. Even so, Sungwoo senses no divine presence from him. He begins wondering just how far Geo's abilities could reach. Could he paint destiny itself? Could he create memories? Could he even create a real human being? Geo calmly answers that such things may or may not be possible, but he has no interest in finding out. The very thought of creating a human life feels disturbing to him. He insists that he is not someone extraordinary and sincerely asks Sungwoo not to think of him as a superior being. Sungwoo quietly accepts his request. Later, he once again raises the subject with Bisabale and asks whether the portrait should finally be turned over to the Hunter Association. Bisabale smiles. He admits there is still far too much they do not know. They have no idea what Geo's true abilities are, how vast his existence really is, or what role he plays in the world's origin. Sungwoo points out that someone with such immeasurable influence should probably be studied by the Hunter Association for humanity's sake. Bisabale simply calls him by his full name. Then he reminds Sungwoo why he was hired in the first place. The Collectors Guild was never founded to gather weapons. It exists to preserve masterpieces. Bisabale proudly declares that he has pride as an artist, not as a hunter. A true collector does not value artwork because it grants power or brings good fortune. What matters is the story contained within the piece itself. His only wish is to preserve that story with his own hands. Looking toward the portrait of Geo hanging quietly inside the dark gallery, Bisabale reflects that what they are facing is like a natural disaster capable of holding a conversation. Fortunately for humanity, it has no ill intentions. Inside his peaceful world, Geo calmly prepares bread dough while surrounded by the colorful jewels and creatures he created. Meanwhile, Bisabale reflects on how unbelievable it was to meet someone like Geo. To him, it is nothing short of a miracle. Whatever Geo truly is, Bisabale believes they cannot afford to lose such an existence. He explains that the moment the painting appeared at the auction, it was only a matter of time before the entire world learned about it. Purchasing it first was his way of preventing an unpredictable disaster before anyone else could interfere. Sungwoo realizes that his guildmaster had been thinking several steps ahead all along. Bisabale then makes one thing perfectly clear. If Gio truly believes he is human, then everyone should treat him as a human. Back inside the painting, one of Gio's small glowing yellow creatures accidentally bumps into an object on his workbench, sending it rolling away. The tiny creature lets out a cute little sound while Gio quietly watches. Bisabale advises Sungwoo not to think like ordinary hunters. Instead, he should broaden his perspective. Sungwoo agrees. After spending time with Gio, he has become convinced that the young man is genuinely kind. Bisabale laughs. He points out that although Gio dislikes being disturbed, he never holds a grudge against anyone. Even when someone inconveniences him, his first concern is avoiding harm to others. That alone tells Bisabale everything he needs to know about Gio's character. Sungwoo finds that difficult to believe. With power beyond comprehension, humanity should seem no more significant than insects to someone like Gio. Yet Bisabale remains certain. He confidently claims that a single glance was enough for him to understand Gio's nature. As guildmaster, he trusts his own judgment completely. He tells Sungwoo not to pry too deeply into Gio's thoughts. Instead, he should simply become someone Gio enjoys talking to. Then, with a completely straight face, Bisabale suggests taking Gio outside for a walk every now and then. Sungwoo stares at him in disbelief. The guildmaster is completely serious. Although the idea sounds absurd, Sungwoo eventually laughs at himself for worrying so much. He decides to trust Bisabale's judgment. Before sending him off, Bisabale orders the Collectors Guild to provide Gio with the best treatment and care possible. Later that night, Sungwoo walks through the city thinking about everything that has happened. He feels relieved that Gio was never handed over to the Hunter Association. Having worked as a gardener in the past, Sungwoo knows exactly how the association conducts its research. It is cruel. Gardeners are individuals chosen to care for a garden, a special existence connected to the origin itself. Because the condition of a garden influences the difficulty of multiple dungeons, gardeners devote their lives to protecting them. Over time, they naturally grow attached to the beings born from the origin. As he walks, Sungwoo notices a street vendor selling bungeopang. Remembering how much Gio enjoys eating, he buys a bag before returning to the gallery. Handing over the warm snack, Sungwoo casually asks Gio how old he is. Gio answers that he is 29 years old. Sungwoo smiles. At 33, he had expected Gio to be much older. Gio admits that most people assume the same thing. Thinking he might have sounded rude, Sungwoo quickly apologizes. Then Gio asks Sungwoo's age. When Sungwoo answers that he is 33, Gio honestly remarks that he looks young for his age. The unexpected compliment makes Sungwoo laugh. Gio then suggests they stop speaking so formally. Sungwoo happily agrees and begins talking to him more casually while giving him the bungeopang. Time passes, and before long, the investigation reaches its 17th day. During one of their conversations, Sungwoo explains the relationship between the origin and the gardens. He compares the origin to a human body and the gardens to its organs, such as the heart, veins, eyes, and nails. Gio listens with genuine fascination. Sungwoo admits that he finds Gio just as fascinating. He explains that being a gardener is incredibly dangerous, and many people lose their lives performing the role. Curious, Gio asks whether becoming a gardener is always a choice. Sungwoo shakes his head. It is not. Even after becoming a curator, he cannot simply abandon that responsibility. Later, Sungwoo hands Gio a small bag of seeds he had requested. Gio reaches his hands out of the painting to receive them, thanking him with a smile. Sungwoo cannot help laughing. It is the first time he has only seen Gio's hands emerge from the canvas. Concerned for his friend, Gio asks whether living as a gardener is difficult. Sungwoo admits that it is challenging, but it is still a life worth living. Whenever he closes his eyes, he sees a breathtaking mountain range covered in snow and glaciers. To him, having a garden to protect is something truly beautiful. Gio quietly pets one of his glowing yellow creatures as he listens. He says he understands those feelings perfectly. To him, the world inside the painting is just as precious. Smiling, Sungwoo asks a simple question. Would you like to leave the painting someday? He tells Gio that if he ever wants to see the outside world, he would be happy to take him sightseeing. Standing in the middle of his peaceful forest, Geo quietly wonders what it would be like to explore the world beyond his painting. Yu Sungwoo knows that asking a mysterious existence like Geo to leave the painting is an incredibly serious decision. No one knows what Geo truly is, making it impossible to predict how he would affect the outside world. Since they cannot stop whatever the future holds, Sungwoo believes it is better to understand Geo before that day arrives. He points out that Geo knows very little about the modern world and suggests they go sightseeing together so he can show him how much everything has changed. After thinking it over, Geo decides it may finally be time to return to society. He accepts the invitation and asks when they should leave. As Geo quietly thinks, one of his glowing little creatures notices his silence and innocently comments that their daddy is thinking very hard. Meanwhile, Geo continues tending the small farm inside his painting. He reflects that people outside seem frightened of him. Since his paintings come to life and he himself lives inside one, he understands why others might find him strange. He also remembers the strange feeling whenever he spoke with people. It was as if they were looking at each other through completely different resolutions. Although it felt unusual, he never thought it was a bad thing. Now that he has agreed to leave the painting, he hopes to find a way to bridge that gap. Wearing a straw hat beneath the warm sunlight, Geo happily finishes working the soil. Looking over the field, he remembers his grandmother's advice. If you don't work, you don't eat. One of the glowing yellow creatures tilts its head after hearing him speak. Smiling, Geo gently tells the little creature that simply being adorable is already enough work. He admits he was surprised when it eventually learned to talk. Since it is warmer and friendlier than the others, he decides it deserves a name. Holding the tiny creature in his hands, Geo spends a long time thinking. His first few ideas are so bad that even he laughs at himself. Eventually, he settles on the name Honey because of its warm golden color. The little creature happily accepts the name, and Geo thanks it for being so generous. Afterward, he returns to his studio to finish a landscape painting before taking a well-earned nap. As he paints the rough waves of the sea, every brushstroke seems to breathe life into the canvas. Suddenly, a system notification appears. It announces that it is searching for a compatible dimension. Countless unfamiliar worlds flash across the screen before the system finally locates one. At the same moment, the painting of the ocean begins shining with a brilliant light that fills the studio. Completely unaware of what has happened, Geo is already fast asleep. The next morning, he wakes to find a blue system window floating directly in front of his face. Still half asleep, he complains that the system could at least wait until he is fully awake before interrupting him. Looking through the notifications, he discovers that the ocean painting has been officially named the Breathing Sea. Other paintings have also received names, including Animal Kingdom and City of the Void. Geo gradually realizes something unbelievable. The landscapes he painted have become actual dimensions. That raises an uncomfortable question. Should an ordinary human really be capable of creating entire worlds? Honey lands on his shoulder just as he begins overthinking everything. Geo laughs and decides that if creating worlds is this enjoyable, then he has no reason to complain. He jokes that the system probably named everything because it realized he was terrible at naming things himself. While checking the notifications, he notices unfamiliar terms such as compatible host and synchronization. Curious, he asks the system to stop being vague and explain everything properly. The system reveals that every newly connected dimension contains a compatible host. Among all the beings living there, the compatible host is the individual whose existence most closely matches Geo's. With that person's permission, Geo can temporarily borrow both their body and soul to travel through the new dimension. Looking over the candidates, he notices names like Giovanni and Argo. For a moment, he jokingly wonders whether the system simply chose people whose names sounded similar to his own. He quickly dismisses that idea. If compatibility were that simple, the system would not use such a specific term. There must be a much deeper connection. His attention then shifts to another notification regarding the City of the Void. The system informs him that this dimension has not yet been registered on the map and asks whether he wishes to do so. Only then does Geo realize he may have accidentally created an entirely new dimension. Smiling with excitement, he immediately confirms the registration. He proudly tells Honey that life is becoming more exciting every day before joking that life is simply a whirlwind. Just then, another system tip appears. It claims to have found a solution to the visual compatibility problem that had been bothering him. The answer is surprisingly simple. Use a compatible host. Without hesitation, Gio selects Giovanni's profile. In an instant, his surroundings disappear. When he opens his eyes again, he finds himself sitting on a hospital gurney inside what appears to be an old laboratory illuminated by an eerie blue light. Honey is nowhere to be seen. Gio immediately complains that the system's transportation service could use some improvement. Another notification appears, informing him that he is successfully connected to Giovanni's mental landscape. As he looks around, the place resembles an abandoned hospital. Then, footsteps echo through the room. A tall man with long blonde hair and white robes walks through a large wooden door. His expression is calm, yet carries a hint of sadness. Gio quietly stares at the newcomer. The man's face looks astonishingly similar to his own. The stranger smiles warmly before introducing himself. "My name is Giovanni of House Bartland." Gio introduces himself to the blonde man and quickly realizes that the system was right. This man is truly his compatible host. Looking at Giovanni's face, Gio jokes that if he had been born in another country, he probably would have looked exactly like him. Giovanni smiles warmly and says they likely share far more than just their appearance. Gio humbly disagrees. He admits he has never been good at smiling. His serious expression often made people misunderstand him. Many assumed he carried a tragic past simply because he always looked so stern while teaching. In reality, he was usually just waiting for class to end so he could go eat dinner. Giovanni laughs, saying it reminds him of his own students. He assures Gio that after synchronizing with him, he will eventually learn how to smile naturally. Curious, Gio asks about the synchronization. He thought borrowing another person's body and soul would be no different from stealing them. He cannot understand why Giovanni shows no fear or resentment. Giovanni calmly shakes his head. This is not theft. His life has already ended. His soul has returned to the sun, and although he says his body returned to the earth, he quickly corrects himself. There was never a grave. His homeland was completely swallowed by the sea. Shocked, Joe asks if an entire world truly disappeared beneath the ocean. Giovanni quietly confirms it. His world came to an end. Joe listens without interrupting. The story feels far too heavy for someone he has only just met, yet Giovanni continues anyway. He explains that after the world's destruction, only mermaids remained beneath the sea, while the planet itself became a dungeon bound by strict rules. Hearing the word dungeon, Gio immediately remembers everything Yu Sung-woo taught him about the Great Catastrophe. Giovanni says he did not understand those concepts at first either, but everything became clear the moment Gio called him through the system. As their connection deepens, Gio sees his own reflection upside down, as though he were staring at the surface of the ocean. Giovanni explains that they are not the same person. They are simply two different individuals, born with extraordinary similarities. Soon, their souls will synchronize. It could be called reincarnation. It could be called resurrection. Whatever the name, they will continue experiencing the future together. When Giovanni mentions the origin, Gio becomes curious. Giovanni gently explains that Gio is already living within the origin itself. Gio recalls hearing that term from Yu Sung-woo, although humanity only gave it that name because no one truly understands what the origin is. Giovanni simply smiles. He says he is only an ordinary soul who answered the system's call. Then, he makes one request. If possible, he wants Gio to look after the sun god of his world. Gio immediately points at himself in disbelief. He is just an ordinary person. How could he possibly take care of a god? Giovanni laughs softly. He once felt exactly the same. He explains that gods eventually fade away if no one remembers them. As one of the sun god's followers, he cannot stop worrying about being forgotten. He only asks Gio to remember the sun god from time to time and occasionally keep him company. In return, that divine connection may help Gio during his travels across other dimensions. Gio compares the request to chatting with lonely elderly people. Back in college, he often volunteered to spend time with seniors living alone, so this feels surprisingly familiar. He asks if Giovanni has any other wishes. Smiling, Giovanni jokes that asking someone to take care of a god is already more than enough. Relieved, he realizes the sun god will no longer be alone. A moment later, Giovanni quietly whispers another name, Arya. The image of a mermaid flashes through Gio's mind. Curious, he asks who she is. Giovanni's peaceful expression suddenly darkens. Arya was his disciple. His final request is for Gio to bring her story to an end. A horrifying vision of an entire city resting beneath the dark ocean suddenly fills Gio's mind. The next instant, his consciousness returns to his cabin inside the painting. Honey is waiting for him exactly where he left it. But before Gio can relax, an unbearable cold spreads throughout his body. He collapses onto his bed as intense pain tears through him. A system notification appears. The synchronization has begun. It also confirms two newly accepted quests. Speak with the sun god. Bring an end to the Little Mermaid. Honey panics as Zhao's entire body trembles. Even through the pain, he reassures the tiny creature that everything will be all right. The synchronization rate reaches 1%. At that moment, fragments of Giovanni's memories begin flowing into Gio's mind. He sees Giovanni welcoming two mysterious figures emerging from the sea. Then the memory twists. A horrifying sea creature with countless sharp teeth smiles back at him while calmly saying that nothing is wrong. An overwhelming wave of grief crashes into Gio. The pain is so intense that tears begin streaming down his face. Yet through those memories, Giovanni continues smiling peacefully. His gentle voice echoes one final time. Despite everything that happened, he never regretted his life. Even after suffering such a tragic end, he was truly happy. Elsewhere in the real world, beneath a streetlight at night, a mysterious woman quietly comments that the situation is becoming troublesome. The streetlight suddenly goes dark, leaving only the moonlight illuminating the silent city. Meanwhile, inside the Collectors Guild, Bisabil finishes typing a new official notice on his laptop. Satisfied with his plan, he publishes it for every guild employee. The announcement establishes special rules regarding Gio and makes it clear that the portrait is to be protected. As the notification reaches everyone's phones, whispers immediately spread throughout the guild. Many employees admit they have never seen such a strange internal memo before. Others begin wondering if the cloaked figure mentioned in the notice is the same mysterious ghost rumored to haunt the basement gallery. One question quickly spreads through the entire guild. Who, or what, is Gio? The guild-wide notice immediately throws every employee into confusion. Everyone knows Bisabil would never joke in an official announcement, making it impossible to dismiss the memo as a prank. Some employees decide it is best not to question it. Whatever the hooded figure in the basement is, the guild master has already made his decision. Their job is simply to follow the new rules. Others are relieved that they do not have to investigate the mysterious ghost themselves. Only a few curators remain nervous, knowing they may have to look after the portrait of Gio whenever Yu Sungwoo is unavailable. Watching the anxious employees whisper among themselves, one of the guards silently decides he should at least buy them dinner to cheer them up. Elsewhere, Yu Sungwoo reports to Bisabil that everything has been resolved peacefully. The guildmaster laughs. He admits he loves the fact that his employees hate unnecessary work. By creating clear rules for how everyone should treat Gio, the guild can avoid offending him and prevent unnecessary problems. Sungwoo agrees. However, because of Gio's overwhelming presence, he believes they should let the public think he is simply an S-rank hunter. Bisabil immediately finds the idea amusing. Hunters are treated like celebrities, so the appearance of an unknown S-rank would spread across the country almost instantly. Sungwoo explains that this is exactly why it is a good idea. The danger of an unknown existence grows alongside the rumors surrounding it. If people believe Gio is merely another powerful hunter, they will be far less likely to fear what he truly is. Bisabil is impressed by the reasoning. To prepare for Gio's first trip outside, he has already reserved an entire high-security hotel that normally houses tamer hunters. With a grin, he tells Sungwoo not to worry about any small accidents. His only job is to make sure Gio enjoys the outing. Hearing that, Sungwoo can only pray nothing goes wrong. A short time later, he arrives once again at the 5th basement gallery. Walking into the collection room, he finds Gio already standing outside the painting. The moment he sees him, Sung-woo freezes. Something is different. Gio calmly asks whether he had been waiting long. Sung-woo quickly replies that he actually arrived early, but he cannot hide his shock. Gio's voice sounds completely different from before. The overwhelming pressure that once surrounded him has also disappeared. Noticing Sung-woo's reaction, Gio calmly explains that he made a few adjustments before leaving the painting. Confused, Sung-woo asks what he means. Gio simply says he changed himself so ordinary humans would not be frightened by his presence. 2 days earlier, after synchronizing with Giovanni's soul, Gio had already begun noticing major changes. While relaxing inside the painting with Honey beside him, he realized the system required him to synchronize with compatible hosts and complete the quests connected to their dimensions in order to increase his synchronization rate. As the synchronization progressed, Giovanni's memories naturally flowed into his own. His emotions, experiences, and personality slowly blended together with Gio's without resistance. Gio comes to understand that Giovanni was a genuinely kind and charismatic man who always sought peace, treasured the people around him, and found happiness in life's simplest moments. He also inherits Giovanni's full name, Giovanni Bartland. Although it feels strange to have another person's memories inside his own mind, Gio quickly realizes he can still separate his own thoughts whenever necessary. Then, something unexpected happens. His stomach growls loudly enough to surprise both him and Honey. Synchronization has restored the physical needs he had lost while living inside the painting. Now, he can truly feel hunger, sleepiness, and even the need to clean his house again. Instead of seeing that as a problem, Gio smiles. To him, becoming a little more human again is actually comforting. Back in the present, Gio quietly tells Sung-woo that he is feeling hungry and asks if they can leave. Sung-woo finally snaps out of his thoughts and leads the way. As they walk toward the elevator, he realizes he spent all his time worrying about the wrong things. Gio has voluntarily suppressed his own overwhelming presence so the people around him would feel comfortable. To Sung-woo, reducing such immense power is almost like injuring his own soul. Unable to hide his concern, he asks if Gio is really all right. Gio looks confused and simply answers that he is. During the walk through the guild, Sung-woo remembers how freely Gio gives gifts to others. That generosity now worries him far more than Gio's power. If people with bad intentions ever learned about his abilities, they would undoubtedly try to take advantage of him. Sung-woo finally realizes the greatest danger is not Gio himself. It is humanity's reaction to someone as kind as him. Passing the guards at the guild entrance, the two quietly step outside together. Gio looks around the modern city with curiosity. The last time he briefly looked outside, everything was completely different. Now towering buildings fill the skyline, and countless people walk through the busy streets. Watching the crowds pass by, Gio quietly remarks that the world of the living has changed far more than he ever imagined. Stepping into the city for the first time in 31 years, Gio is amazed by everything around him. His worries quickly disappear as he watches people casually walking through the streets carrying enormous swords. Even after suppressing his presence, however, people cannot help glancing at him. Passing hunters quietly whisper among themselves, including one with wings and another carrying a massive blue sword. Yu Sung-woo notices the attention immediately. Even after lowering his aura, Gio still gives off the presence of an A-rank hunter. To avoid attracting any more attention, Sung-woo gently pulls Gio's hood back over his head. Gio quietly accepts the help. Their destination is a restaurant, and Sung-woo explains they will be taking the suspended railway. The futuristic train fascinates Gio. He cannot believe the outside world advanced this much in only 31 years. Before entering the station, Sung-woo hands him a personal payment card. He calmly explains that Gio can buy anything he wants with it. There is no spending limit. Gio freezes. He nervously stares at the card, unable to understand why someone would trust him with something so valuable. Following Sung-woo's instructions, he taps the card against the gate, and a confirmation chime echoes through the station. Once inside the train, Gio notices how empty it is. He asks if something happened. Sung-woo explains that nothing is wrong. The fare is simply too expensive for most ordinary people. Hearing that, Geo quietly concludes that capitalism has survived the apocalypse just fine. Looking around the nearly empty train, he also realizes the gap between the rich and the poor seems even wider than it was before. Checking the time, Sung-woo points out that it is already 8:38 in the morning. Most people have already started work. Geo is horrified. When Sung-woo casually mentions that many companies begin work at 7 in the morning, Geo internally concludes that human rights must have disappeared sometime during the last 31 years. Living inside a painting suddenly sounds much better than becoming a corporate slave. Trying to lighten the mood, Sung-woo brings up the fish-shaped bread Geo enjoyed earlier. He explains that it is street food and suggests finding a stall later. He also mentions other snacks like egg bread and takoyaki. When Sung-woo asks whether Geo knows what fish cake is, Geo is briefly offended. His friend seems to forget that he used to live as an ordinary human before becoming trapped inside the painting. Still, he quickly lets it go. More than anything, he is excited to try modern sweets. Sung-woo unfortunately explains that most street vendors disappeared after being banned for ruining the city's appearance. Strict regulations pushed them out of the capital, making it much harder to find traditional street food. Geo finds that strange. The conversation naturally shifts towards society itself. Sung-woo reluctantly explains that modern society has become divided into social classes. Class 1 consists of hunters and influential citizens living in the capital, especially B-rank hunters and above with clean records. Ordinary residents of the capital belong to Class 2. People living in the distant provinces are generally treated as Class 3. Those without identities or official records are pushed into Class 4. Meanwhile, criminals and fugitives are classified as Class 5, losing their human rights and facing immediate execution if discovered. Geo quietly listens. He finds the entire system both heartbreaking and difficult to accept. When he asks why such extreme divisions exist, Sung-woo explains that it all began as a matter of survival. No one knows when a dungeon might suddenly appear. Some monsters adapted to Earth after the Great Catastrophe and still roam the world today. Because of that, massive defensive walls surround the capital, while buildings are constructed using materials harvested from powerful monsters. With so many hunters stationed nearby, attacks can usually be contained immediately. The provinces are different. Out there, a single mistake can cost someone their life. Eventually, the two arrive at a traditional restaurant. Sung-woo deliberately chose this place because it does not serve monster meat. Geo is stunned. People actually eat monsters now. Realizing how much the world has changed, he cannot help feeling saddened by how harsh life has become. Fortunately, one thing remains exactly the same. Bulgogi still tastes just as delicious as he remembers. After the meal, they walk beside a beautiful canal lined with green plants despite the middle of winter. Sung-woo explains that magic keeps the water warm, turning the entire area into a giant greenhouse. Best of all, almost anyone can enter for free. As they walk, Geo notices a small white bird with fluffy feathers. Sung-woo gently picks it up and explains that it is one of the monsters that eventually lost its hostility toward humans. Geo is surprised that something so adorable was once considered dangerous. Before long, several more of the tiny creatures happily gather on top of his hood. Watching the scene, Sung-woo smiles and suggests dipping their feet into the warm water. Geo hesitates. He asks whether that is actually allowed. Since no one else is around, Sung-woo tells him not to worry. Geo carefully sits on the edge of the canal and lowers his bare feet into the water. The warmth immediately relaxes him. He quietly admires how clear and beautiful the water is. Then he notices something else, a faintly sweet fragrance. The scent instantly reminds him of Giovanni's world. Without warning, Giovanni's presence begins surfacing from deep within Geo's soul. The calm canal starts rippling on its own. A soft green light shines beneath Geo's hood. Long blonde hair slowly spills out as Giovanni's consciousness takes control. Completely absorbed by the familiar sensation, he gently splashes the water with a peaceful smile. Watching the transformation unfold before his eyes, Sung-woo turns pale. His voice trembles as he calls out, "Geo, is that still you?" With a calm smile and a voice filled with gentle warmth, the blonde man beneath the hood answers Sung-woo's question. "Yes, I am, Geo." Although the name is the same, Sungwoo immediately realizes something is different. Cold sweat runs down his back as he feels an overwhelming presence standing before him. Later, the two arrive at a luxury hotel. Sungwoo hands Jio a keycard and explains that his own room is right next door. They agree to meet again at 6 in the evening for dinner before parting ways. Jio quietly enters his room. The moment the door closes, Sungwoo collapses to his knees. His entire body trembles as he struggles to catch his breath. He cannot stop replaying what happened beside the canal. The blonde figure was definitely not the same person he had been speaking with at the guild. Back then, Jio had introduced himself using his full Korean name. But after that sudden transformation, the blonde man deliberately introduced himself simply as Jio. That small difference convinces Sungwoo that another consciousness had answered him. Leaning against the wall, he realizes he lowered his guard too soon. Even if Jio suppresses his power, he is still far beyond anything that could be called an ordinary human. To Sungwoo, Jio feels less like a person and more like a force of nature wearing a human form. While Sungwoo struggles with anxiety next door, Jio remains completely unaware. Standing by the large window on the 45th floor, he quietly admires the endless city skyline. Honey chirps beside him. Holding the tiny creature in his hand, Jio apologizes that he cannot feed it while they are away from home because Honey has been hiding inside his suitcase the entire time. Lying comfortably on the bed, he promises that once they return to the cabin, he will make a sweet dessert with syrup for them. Meanwhile, Sungwoo desperately tries to calm himself. He reminds himself that Jio has never shown any hostility. Perhaps he is only trying his best to live as a kind human. Even so, Sungwoo silently prays that nothing unusual happens during the rest of the outing. Unfortunately, things do not stay peaceful for long. As they travel along another canal, the scent of the water once again awakens Giovanni's influence. Seeing Jio suddenly move toward the edge, Sungwoo rushes forward and grabs him before he can lose his balance near the speeding boat. The pilot turns around in alarm. Realizing what happened, Jio politely apologizes. He explains that he had never seen a canal like this before and became curious. Sungwoo lets out a relieved sigh. He tells Jio that suddenly moving toward the edge of the boat is dangerous. Jio quietly thanks him for worrying about his safety. Still uneasy, Sungwoo carefully watches him for any sign that Giovanni's personality might emerge again. Trying to understand the trigger, he asks whether Jio likes the sea. He explains that after the Great Catastrophe, sea monsters caused Earth's water levels to rise, leading to the construction of canals throughout the cities. He only wants to know whether the smell of the sea has some special meaning to Jio. After thinking for a moment, Jio answers honestly. He does not particularly like the sea. Then he pauses. But I think I do. The contradictory answer leaves Sungwoo completely confused. Jio then asks another unexpected question. Are there mermaids in this world too? Surprised, Sungwoo explains that creatures resembling mermaids sometimes appear among sea monsters. He also reveals that myths, legends, and ancient religions have become far more powerful than before. The faith and belief of humanity can now give birth to real supernatural beings. Jio quietly remembers everything Giovanni told him about his own world and the tragedy that befell it. He also recalls the 2 quests he accepted. Speak with the sun god. Bring an end to Arya's story. Before he can think any further, the boat reaches its destination. The restaurant is built inside the remains of a conquered fixed dungeon shaped like a gigantic seashell. Fascinated, Jio asks what a fixed dungeon is. Sungwoo explains that dungeons are divided into several categories. Fixed dungeons permanently remain in one location. Mobile dungeons appear and disappear. There are also virtual dungeons that activate only after certain hidden conditions are met. Town dungeons that remain after their rules disappear, and entrance dungeons that connect directly to other dimensions. Jio is horrified. Being dragged into a dungeon just because someone unknowingly fulfilled a condition sounds completely unfair. Sungwoo agrees. That unpredictability is exactly why virtual dungeons are among humanity's greatest fears. Pointing toward the giant seashell surrounding them, he explains that this place was originally a culinary dungeon. It was conquered when an ordinary chef prepared a meal that satisfied the dungeon's master. Jio immediately smiles. he finds that ending surprisingly heartwarming. Sung-woo adds that the chef awakened as a hunter and is still cooking at the age of 92. Jio is shocked. Sung-woo explains that awakened individuals of C rank or higher age much more slowly, making the elderly chef appear closer to 50. Jio can only sigh. The future continues to surprise him. After finishing the explanation about town dungeons and entrance dungeons, Sung-woo asks whether Jio enjoyed the meal. Smiling warmly with traces of Giovanni's gentle demeanor, Jio praises the food. It reminds him of the meals he once shared with his former disciples. Seeing him genuinely happy makes Sung-woo smile as well, but whispers from nearby tables quickly remind him they are attracting attention. He quietly suggests leaving before more people notice them. Their next destination will be Gyeongbokgung Palace. The moment Jio hears the name, memories from his days as a history teacher come rushing back. He fondly remembers taking his students there on educational trips. Wondering how those students are doing after all these years, Jio happily agrees to visit the palace. Jio and Yoo Sung-woo arrive at the magnificent Gyeongbokgung Palace, where floating lanterns illuminate the historic grounds with magic. As they walk through the palace courtyard, Sung-woo thanks the event staff while guiding his unusual guest through the crowd. Noticing Jio's traditional outfit, he compliments how well it suits him. The praise makes Jio smile. He remembers visiting this palace countless times as a history teacher, leading school trips and organizing students for group photos. Back then, he was always the one accompanying others. He never imagined he would one day wear traditional clothing himself while walking through these grounds. Looking around, Jio is amazed by how naturally magic has blended with the ancient palace. His attention is drawn to glowing spirits drifting peacefully through the night sky. Curious, he asks what they are. Sung-woo is surprised that it is Jio's first time seeing them. Jio explains that they are children of the origin, beings that rarely appear before humans. Interested, Sung-woo hands him a street snack while listening. Jio explains that the origin is the force responsible for creating and sustaining every world. The spirits born from it imitate concepts created by humans and are capable of disguising themselves perfectly. When Sung-woo asks whether ordinary people can see them, Jio explains that only a very small number can. Sung-woo recalls that before the Great Catastrophe, almost nobody possessed that ability. Only after humanity awakened did more people begin seeing such beings. Assuming Jio is simply an extraordinarily gifted, awakened individual, Sung-woo comments that he blends into human society surprisingly well. Jio casually replies that his abilities came from a painting. The unexpected answer nearly makes Sung-woo choke. Before they can continue, a loud argument breaks out nearby. Security quickly rushes in to restrain the people causing trouble. Sung-woo expects the situation to end there. Suddenly, a system window appears before Jio, assigning him a quest to evaluate one of the men involved. Although the man appears to be an ordinary victim, Jio quietly checks him. The result shocks him. The system identifies the man as an extremely dangerous individual. Cold sweat runs down Jio's back as he wonders why someone like that is freely walking around. Sung-woo simply explains that security is already handling the disturbance, so Jio quietly follows him and leaves without saying anything. A moment later, Honey suddenly pokes its head out from beneath Jio's cloak and chirps happily. Startled, Jio quickly hides the little bird again. Sung-woo watches the scene in silence. Then he jokingly asks if this adorable little creature is the terrifying monster Jio mentioned before. Jio proudly introduces the tiny bird. This is Honey. Sung-woo can only sigh. At this point, he has completely given up trying to predict what will happen next. Seeing Sung-woo's exhausted expression, Jio mistakenly believes he has caused too much trouble. Feeling guilty, he suggests ending the outing and returning to the hotel. Sung-woo happily agrees and promises to buy more spicy snacks on the way back. That immediately cheers Jio up. Meanwhile, one of the criminals removed from the palace secretly watches them from a nearby alley. After recognizing Yoo Sung-woo as the famous curator of the Collectors Guild and remembering Jio's overwhelming presence, he concludes that Jio must be an incredibly powerful awakened hunter. Fearing that Jio could expose his years-long infiltration of the Sun Cult, he decides there is only one solution: kill him. Just then, Honey lands alone on a nearby pipe. Mistaking Geo for nothing more than an ordinary tamer, the criminal mocks his carelessness and reaches out to capture the tiny bird. The instant he attacks, Honey erupts with overwhelming heat. A brilliant explosion destroys the mystical gem the criminal was carrying and completely erases him without leaving behind a single trace. Back at the hotel, Geo suddenly feels the magical bond connecting him to Honey violently tremble. His eyes snap open. He immediately senses that something has happened to his precious companion. Moonlight fills the silent room as he desperately searches for the little bird, softly calling Honey's name. But there is no answer. Looking at the empty room, Geo slowly realizes Honey is gone. He grips his shirt tightly as sorrow overwhelms him. Believing he has lost the companion who had always stayed by his side, he gazes out at the lonely city beneath the cold night sky. For the first time since leaving the painting, Geo feels that even this new world refuses to let him live in peace.